Thank you, Ethel. I appreciate your reading Scripture. I've missed you doing that. What makes you sing besides the shower? What causes you to sing?
Car radio.
The radio?
Makes you feel good.
Feeling good?
Happiness.
Happiness.
To get children from one spot to another.
Seeing children from one place to another. Yeah, it helps them move, doesn't it?
It does.
So when do you sing besides in the shower? Does everybody sing in the shower? That's just a stereotype, isn't it? I mean, we just have that about.
I sing in the car.
Sing in the car. Yeah, I don't sing in the shower either. But I do often find myself singing in situations that remind me of lyrics of songs that I remember.
Yes.
Maybe recent songs, but also maybe songs from long ago. For instance, driving at night, sometimes I will find myself, particularly if I have the sunroof open, driving at night, I'll find myself often beginning, "On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair, warm smell of colitas rising." Yeah, you could go on, some of you with me on that, couldn't you? With Hotel California. Often the songs that I find myself singing in response to situations that I'm in are country songs. Even though that one was not, a lot of times they're country songs because growing up, that was one of my favorite genres of music, was country music. And so it isn't unusual for me to hear in my head as some experiences, I'm watching some experience unfold before me, it's not uncommon to hear in my head the voice of Johnny Cash or Waylon Jennings or Willie Nelson belting out something. And I have to confess that sometimes it's, "Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head. That didn't hurt." I listened to these songs for a number of years. Billy Joel, the Eagles, country music. And they at that time were my favorite kind of music. What is your favorite kind of music? And I recognize that we're sitting in a sanctuary in church this morning, so there is some of that, residual guilt that you grow up with about this kind of space to respond in a churchy sort of way. But let me give you permission not to have to do that. So, what is your favorite kind of music? What's that? Oldies, yeah, 60s, 70s. Yeah.
Music that you can actually understand the words.
Music that you can understand the words, the lyrics. But what fun is that, Kat? No. Billy Joel.
It's more fun to make up your own.
What else do you listen to? What's your favorite music?
It depends on the situation.
Bach. Classic rock and roll.
New Age.
New Age.
Big band.
Big band. What?
Depends on the mood.
Depends on the mood.
Yeah. I have country, 106.5, rap, all on my program.
Rap, country. Wow. What a great variety. Yeah, and now we have all been witnesses to what just happened, right? We all recognize that we all like different kinds of music, right? So it's going to be no wonder that we're never going to agree on what kind of music we ought to do in church. Okay? Right? Okay, good. We're coming from a lot of different places when it comes to music. How does music make you feel? Alive. Justified.
Depends on the song.
Depends on the song. It can affect your mood. But what you're hearing and the way it's moving may affect the way you feel.
Yeah, because you're thinking about something at that particular time.
Right.
And that song, it started.
Yeah. Or it may evoke from you a memory back when you heard that song before and loved it in another time in your life. What music makes you want to dance? Lady Gaga.
Whitney Houston.
What? Britney Spears.
Beach music.
Beach music. Whitney Houston. Yeah. So the question then is, what music gets you moving? It was interesting that Debbie said you use music to get children from one place to another, particularly in a school context, right, or a kindergarten context, because music just helps them move right along. My guess is it does the same for us too. In our lives, music plays a great part. That's pretty much a given from our discussion here. In church, you want to hear some familiar songs because they remind you of good things, experiences that you've had perhaps in church before, some of the old songs and hymns. Music becomes an indispensable part of worship. In your bulletin, there's an insert of 40, it says 42, but there's actually 43 there, I think. These are songs that, and I believe it was 1996, a group of educators in this country put together to say, you know, children aren't learning these songs anymore, and they're losing an important part of what it means to be a citizen in this country. And when you look down that list, I'll bet you, we did this in the discussion group earlier this morning, and I'll do it really quickly, so just do your hands. Raise your hand if you know these songs. Amazing Grace, you can keep them up. America, My Country 'Tis of Thee, America the Beautiful, Battle Hymn of the Republic, Blue Skies, Danny Boy, I love that one, De Colores, Dona Nobis Pacem, some of you have heard, Do Re Mi, everybody knows that. Down by the Riverside, Federico Jacques, Give My Regards to Broadway, God Bless America. Some of you haven't put your hands down yet. God Bless the USA, Green Green Grass of Home, Hava Nagila. He's got the whole world in his hands, Home on the Range. If I had a hammer, if I've been working on the railroad, Let There Be Peace on Earth, Lift Every Voice and Sing, Michael row the boat ashore, Music Alone Shall Live, My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, Old Susanna, Oh What a Beautiful Morning, Over My Head, Puff the Magic Dragon, Lives by the, it's hard to, you know, Rock of My Soul in the Bosom of Abraham, Sakura, Shalom Havarim, good, She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain, Shenandoah, Simple Gifts, Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, The Star Spangled Banner, everybody raise your hand on that one, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, This Land Is Your Land, This Little Light of Mine, Yesterday, Zippity Doo Dah. Who knew all of them? Anybody know? Oh, look at this. This is great. Who knew all but one or two?
I did.
Wow. Yeah, so they're important songs. And there's this whole collection of songs that we as Americans know and sing. And there's something lost, these educators felt, if we don't know these, if our children don't know these songs, because music is such an indispensable part of who we are and where we are and what we're doing. And also, they are very common in our worship services, right? We use music in our worship. Well, church feuds are not uncommon either, especially among cliques in the congregation. But when the pastor and the musicians get into it, watch out. One week, a preacher preached on commitment, and there was a feud going on between he and the musician or the director. And one week he preached on commitment and how we should dedicate ourselves to service, and the director led the choir in singing, I Shall Not Be Moved. The next Sunday the preacher preached on giving and how we should gladly give to the work of the Lord, and the director led the choir in, Jesus paid it all. The next Sunday the preacher preached on gossiping and how we should watch our tongues. And the hymn was, I love to tell the story. Well, the preacher got a little disgusted over this over a few weeks, and so he said to the congregation he was considering resigning over this. It seemed unresolvable. And the choir sang, well, why not tonight? And then when the preacher did resign the next week, he told the church that Jesus had led him there and Jesus was taking him away. And the choir sang, what a friend we have in Jesus. The music, I mean, imagine that happening. Imagine that happening in a church over time in worship. Music in worship isn't just background noise. It moves us emotionally. It moves us spiritually. It might even move us from place to place. Music sets the stage for the unfolding drama of what's happening in worship each week. And it occurred to me yesterday as I reflected on a wedding that I did yesterday around noontime. It was in a beautiful spot up in the mountains of Tennessee, outside Greenville, Tennessee. And we were in a national park. And the ceremony itself, this was a couple who had some Native American roots, and I was honored to be a part of their ceremony. But we did it standing in this sort of pool of water with about a 10-foot waterfall in the background and this rock face behind us, off which the waterfall was coming. And we were about ankle or in some cases knee deep as the ground began to shift underneath my feet. And I, along with the groom and the bride, were standing in the water. And it was a beautiful ceremony. But as I reflected on the experience coming home yesterday, I found that there were many things that were moving and wonderful about the ceremony and the place and the people. But then I felt something had been missing. And I identified what it was finally, is that we had not sung or chanted anything together. And I felt like we had just left something out, an experience together of putting our voices together and singing. And you yourself know that when you're in worship and we're singing a song and everybody's singing, I know the choir pays attention to that. And whenever the congregation is really singing out, it fills me, and I know it does you as well as a choir, with more energy, and you get more inspired as more people join in and singing out heartily. Well, why are songs important? Why are the songs on this list important? Why are the songs in our hymnal important? Because they evoke emotion in us, they remind us of shared experiences. They remind us that we come together. There's a communal aspect to our relationship with each other. There's a communal aspect to our spirituality, to our religious development that includes being together and doing something together that is the same. And music provides a way for us to do that. The Psalms, the Psalter, serve the Hebrew people in much the same way that our hymnal serves us. It gives us a touchstone, a touch point for where we've come from. And while this one's relatively new, only something like almost 30 years old now, can you believe that? 1988, I guess it's 25 years old, isn't it? The New Century Hymnal. And it has some of the old songs in it as well. The Psalms serve that role for the Hebrew people. The Psalter did. And some of the songs, they're in categories. Some of the Psalms are songs of praise. Some of the songs are laments. And the Psalms themselves express almost every, well, I would say, do express every human emotion imaginable. And they're expressed in the context of worship quite often. Sometimes they're individual, but they're expressed to God. So they're prayers in that sense. And in the same way, our hymnal and the hymns we sing and the songs we use in worship are not just songs, but they're songs that have a history. And they're prayers. Prayers that express something to God that we as a people are joining in saying. This particular Psalm, 96, comes in one of the categories called an enthronement psalm, where the people probably sang as they were going up to, it was a processional perhaps, as they were going up to worship together into the temple. And it talks about God being enthroned. In other words, God being the Lord of creation, the Lord of the universe. It's hard to imagine the Bible without the Psalter. It's hard to imagine worship without songs and music. There was a song many years ago, published in 1929 actually, Vincent Yeomans and Billy Rose and Edward Eliscu, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who wrote the lyrics. And it was included in a musical play, Great Day. The title of the song was Without a Song. You might know that one. It was recorded twice by Perry Como, once in 1951, again in 1970. It's been recorded by a number of other artists, including, and the reason I know the song is Willie Nelson recorded it some years ago as well. Without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, the road would never bend. When things go wrong, a man ain't got a friend without a song. That field of corn would never see a plow. That field of corn would be deserted now. A man is born, he ain't no good no how without a song. I got my trouble and woe, but sure as I know the Jordan will roll, I'll get along as a song is in my soul. I'll never know what makes the rain to fall. I'll never know what makes the grass so tall. I only know there ain't no love at all without a song. Both writer and performer seem unable to imagine life without a song. It's hard to imagine worship without a song, without music.